Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a message that's mostly, it's really intended for my family. And being said, I feel like my family might be the one that's growing right here on this platform. And I say that in all seriousness because a lot of us are hurting at this point in time due to climate related circumstances, political um, perspectives, and also just because of the overall tension that everyone's feeling. You know, the news doesn't really sugarcoat it too much. The news is showing you and I that the circumstance is dire. The all of the things that the nation that I'm in has worked for, uh, even though it's been built on, the past, and the past is filled with a lot of atrocity. The nation has been building towards something on the backs of a crumbling foundation, and also on the backs of labor that was not our own. And what I mean by that is, like, for an example, I live in this amazing home that I am absolutely grateful for, and I know that I've done nearly none of the work that was put into building this infrastructure. The infrastructure, by that, what I mean is every single opportunity that I've had, including the opportunity in these later times to easily obtain whatever that I wanted from literally the Amazon, if I so desired. And in hindsight, recognizing the catastrophes that this has all caused, I would definitely not have chosen to do this same thing, live the same way. And in my mind, I feel like we're all observers that are going through this circumstance, through this journey, and learning together that maybe we've been living a lie. And that's why I've put out the series that I've put out and talked about the things that I've talked about, where some of these circumstances almost feel borderline, quote unquote, supernatural. And that's also why I talk about the books of peace, talking about fasting and Lent. Whatever book of peace that you've looked into, the opportunity to go without is something that it takes a lot of strength to do. And right now I'm going without a lot of my family and a lot of my friends because of certain circumstances that have led to conversations where I believe people are reading things in their own voice that I send to them. And for that reason, I want to read this letter that I've written, and I'm going to read it out loud. And hopefully you'll hear in my voice the concern that I have as I am reading it. It's a letter that I'm going to mail to my parents and the people that I thought, would be around in those times of need. And my parents, even though they haven't passed away, they've definitely passed away the responsibility of having some of these conversations. There are a lot of, if you browse, the internet and all that all the time, you're going to find a lot of articles that are shifting blame here and there, and articles that say, the boomer era did this and did that, and sometimes they can't hear this and that, and the millennials and Generation X, this, that, and the other talks a certain way, and so some people don't have the social skills capable to have the capability of working in a workplace now, and soft skills are a thing that's a dying art, and this, that, and the other. The truth is that there's a big communication divide, and the communication divide, I think, sometimes has to do with the fact that a lot of people are not really secure. For an example, if I say to you right now, you're going to get everything you deserve, and if I mean that passionately, I don't know how that makes you feel. To me, I feel like, I don't really feel like I'm owed anything. And I feel like I have way more than I deserve. As I said, I live in a house that I didn't put the effort in to build. And even every single thing that I have has been something that's almost been practically gifted to me in this era. And the more we come up on these times where things are imposed, like tariffs, and the more that people are starting to scramble to try to protect that, the well-being and the sanity of living on those incomes, whether they're fixed or broken incomes, the more we find that we're either grateful for or ungrateful for the aspects of our lives. And I've been grateful to have had my family to talk with for a good portion of time. And then I recognized that we weren't really having conversations that included these concepts like, books of peace, fasting, or going without, and really genuinely genuflecting or bowing down to appreciate the source from which all of this comes. And as I've had these conversations, I basically have been ghosted by my family. It's been greater than 3 months now since I've had any contact with all of my parents. And right now I'm going to read you a letter that I wrote to my parents, and I'm going to show you. I'll show it to you. Handwritten. The writing is not terse. It's not angry. It's not scribbled with any kind of malevolent intentions. It's just words. And the thing is that when people hear words, like I just said earlier about you're going to get everything you deserve, it behooves us to think, what do we hear when we hear someone else's words? So when we read the written word of someone else, we might hear it like, you're going to get everything you deserve. Or we might hear it like, you're going to get everything you deserve. Or you might hear someone passionately saying, we're going to get everything we deserve. If we continue to release balloons into the environment, if you've watched any of my videos that have to do a lot with wildlife and nature, you'll see that I cross a lot of channels and try to reiterate that everything that we're purchasing and using is in fact impacting the environment. And so it behooves us to be grateful for these things. We don't really talk about it. It's Easter right now. We're in a period of Lent, and or Easter's coming up and we're in a period of Lent. And once again, I'm finding that just like last year, one of my parents had a very unusual circumstance with me where I had to copy a friend of mine who had another unusual conversation with me about having to pay attention and recognizing when someone is saying, stop, you're making me feel uncomfortable. And my parents have absolutely made me feel uncomfortable. Many of you might feel the same way. I want to read a letter to you. And if it resonates with you, I hope you subscribe and share, maybe even with your own family, to figure out how to work through these adversities. So I'm going to go ahead and read this letter. And again, some people might say, well, you shouldn't be talking about this, that, or the other. On YouTube, you can talk about whatever you want to. I'm going to talk about this, and I'm going to blend these conversations together to the point where we actually can help one another to heal. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, at least I tried. And that's really all that I can say about that. So let me switch hands here. Maybe this hand won't be as worn out. I've been having some tremendous challenges when it comes to a lot of health circumstances, and I seem to recharge a lot better in nature. But anyway, here I am in the city circumstance, trying to do the best to tend to the garden that was recently hailed on. And things are surviving, but like everywhere in the world, I think we're all going through adversities. And I want to read you a letter that I've written to my parents, hoping that you can maybe tell me if I'm completely wrong in these words, and if these are angry or vindictive, resentful, or anything like that. So here we go. The letter, word for word, I'm going to read it to you now. There's no date or name specifically on this yet, and here it goes. It has now been greater than 3 months since you have chosen or been coerced to not find time to see me. The record will reflect that I offered you both the time and opportunities to attempt to communicate with me if you had wanted to do so. Going forward, I will accept family therapy as our neutral communication option if we ever communicate again. As you know, it is in my nature to follow through with my intentions. My greatest hope is that one day I might find a true family relationship with the ones who supposedly chose to bring me into this existence. For now, the hardships I am facing, coupled with the possible lack of compassion and empathy from some, have reminded me strongly of how my parent chooses to take out the most childish actions to leverage them at others. I had hoped you could find a way to hear my words in my voice, but it seems that you may choose to remain steadfast in your choice to unapologetically blame others, even for this event that I have described to you from my perspective as being an inability to have a full conversation. You may continue to blame me in your circles, and I will continue to hope for true family. My actions move in the direction of truth and justice while continually finding that our fathers and the supposed comfort and the illusion of security for our mothers seems to be propped up on lies that are supported by a network of comfortable liars who accept ignorance by reinforcing the denial of any responsibility whatsoever. We should not fear the truth, as it does in fact set us free. Feel free to set up our therapy session. So, in this letter, which is 4 paragraphs, I've written clearly that I have issues having a full conversation with my parents. I've written clearly that I've given the opportunity for us to get together and have conversations in what most people would consider neutral ground. And I've also, if you go back through this channel far enough, given clear examples of some of the things that our elders are going through right now. And when I say our elders, I'm kind of generalizing. I don't know how your elders are treating you. You know, you might be living on the beautiful illusion of perfection, and you might actually have perfection. You know, a lot of people actually do believe in peace. And for many of us, we know that a lot of people might talk one way, but they don't really play the game the same exact way, especially behind someone's back, especially when people group up in circles that seem to want to demonstrate against one another. In those cases, it's just basically, gossip and lies. And in those circles, that's basically where things go to, go to die. You know, everything dies, whether it's truth or lies. The truth will continue to live on as truth, but everything essentially dies with each individual, and that's all there is to it. But what happens next, you know, and what happens while we're alive? Do we share that truth? Do we share that joy? Do we share those opportunities to bring life into existence? Or do we continue to just cultivate whatever's the most convenient? You know, for my generation in this nation, most of the parents don't really raise the children. They have children, the children go to some daycare, and then after that they go to school, and the parents continue to go to work, never once really having true interactions where they raise their children, never really asking their children, hey, do you like this system that we're working in? Is there anything we can change? There's no evaluation, there's no recognition, and again, there's not really any great responsibility. And for anyone who's questioning my sanity, I dare you to tell me if you built your own house, if you planted your own gardens, if you raised your own food, and if you haven't, and even if you have, what networks brought you all those opportunities? Were you born into it? Did someone give you those opportunities? You know, these are, and I'm not trying to bring about something where I'm saying, you know, I'm jealous of someone who has this, that, or the other. I'm absolutely amazed with the life that I've had. I've had a beautiful life. I've seen things that many people, again, I've shared most of it on this channel, much of it on this channel. I've seen things and experienced things that I would never want to trade as far as opportunities are concerned. And I've shared those experiences with my family, for better or worse. And my family knows this. And for whatever reason, I've attempted to have a conversation with my direct parents and been met with something that in this era is called ghosting, gaslighting. And it's funny because a lot of people who will go to therapy wouldn't include the person that they're going to therapy about or the persons that they're going to therapy about. And they'll come back from their therapy session and say things like, you're projecting, you're gaslighting. And at the same time, they won't be able to accurately remember the conversations that occurred, how they occurred, what words were said, and they'll make up things saying that, like for an example, I've had it told to me that I've said horrible things about people, the people that I've actually been able to have conversations with. They'll say, you said horrible things about me, Ray. Or, Ray, why are you escalating this situation? When all I'm trying to do is pull over the car and have a conversation so that we can actually peacefully resolve this issue, maybe once and for all. But for whatever reason, the truth doesn't come out when you are outnumbered by a bunch of liars. If you found that you're outnumbered by a bunch of liars, maybe it's time to call the A-team. And maybe someone has to come in and go, what are you talking about? And maybe I'm making some, probably 80s cultural references that only a few people are going to get. And those few people are parts of the circles that I'm hopefully communicating with, who can hear and who can possibly learn to have a full conversation. Because, if my friend or family member who were copied on that group thread last year around Easter could hear, they would hear that I could really use their I really could use their assistance right now. But since I don't have their assistance, I'm speaking out to my greater family who might be headed in a different trajectory to a different place altogether than some of these worldly family members might be headed to. And that's really all there is to it. Right now, you may or may not be able to see it behind me. Let's see if this, you see that birdhouse? See that birdhouse in the back here? Let's see, right there. See that birdhouse? It's, wow, I think I blew out the picture there. It's been lowered because it was so windy yesterday. It came out to the high 30s this morning in terms of temperatures, and it's gonna be back up into the 90s this week. These temperature variations have caused a lot of challenges when it comes to nature. And in this particular environment where I'm at, I'm having a lot of difficulty feeding the birds and having the resources to continue doing the things that I've been doing to nurture what's around me. And that's due to monetary constraints. And these monetary constraints are not something that I'm indifferent to, or that I didn't help to generate. And I recognize that. And so when I ask, peacefully, if you can help, please click on the description, see if you can help somehow. I mean that. I would love to be able to continue to provide for the stewardship of the environment that I'm in. I would love to be able to easily continue to nourish this area, to replenish and take care of this area that I've been entrusted to be steward of. And for me, the only implied lack, theoretically, has to do with worldly wealth. And some of you out there have loads of worldly wealth and could easily share if only you heard someone that you thought, hey, they might be deserving of something like this. I probably am not deserving of anything like this, but at the same time, I'm asking. And so if you can help, I would totally appreciate it. The biggest thing you could help with is by subscribing and or sharing this video for people who can understand that family difficulties are something that everyone is probably going through. Some of us are masking it better than others, And some of us basically are choosing to avoid a conversation. And for those who are avoidant, they might do well to hear a message like this, to see what someone has tried. And basically, now that the winds have died down, I'm going to raise that birdhouse back up so that the birds feel more comfortable, safer, out of reach of people and any other kind of predators that would intrude upon their nests. And nature is going to continue to persevere as best as it can in the face of these adversities. And I would implore you, as a member of humanity, to try and do the same thing. Sometimes that means going without and training harder. And so I'm doing all of that. I'm getting stronger. I'm still trying to overcome some of these weird, almost supernatural circumstances that I'm running into. And I don't know that sharing this letter is going to help me in any way other than to have said what I said in a way where someone could hear it in my own voice rather than, in the voice that they hear it in when they receive it in the mail. I left an item on a doorstep for my parents not long ago, and I never heard back from them. So I haven't heard back ever since I mentioned again that it still stings that someone would go out of their way to treat me a certain way and never ever even once consider that an apology might be necessary, mostly so that someone could reflect on what they actually did. For the things I've done that are wrong, I absolutely apologize. I know I've intruded on people's lives. I know that I've done things that were morally compromised. I know that over the course of my time I have sinned. I think that we're all capable of sinning in different ways, and we all might not recognize when we're participating in group sin because it's too convenient to keep taking on these resources that we really didn't work at all or hard enough to actually deserve. And so there are a lot of people who have built up all of these things that we're able to benefit from. There are a lot of people who deserve a lot better, a lot more recognition, and to simply slap on tariffs and try to relate it to something that has anything to do with implied wealth is basically supporting an illusion of lies and comfort. So thanks so much again for listening. Until next time, peace, love, and all that old school stuff.